Cybersecurity continues to be a threat to a number of people. Many are not equipped with the necessary skills to protect themselves from cybercriminals. Now, a public and private sector collaboration through the GovX Innovation Challenge will take place to inspire the next generation of tech entrepreneurs and cybersecurity specialists in order to tackle challenges of cybersecurity and online gender-based violence. This is to drive innovation towards a more digitized and cyber-safe South Africa, while also giving support to victims of online gender-based violence in Africa, which has a significant percentage of women concerned about their safety online. But to tell us more, we're joined by Anna Collard, who is the SVP Content Strategy and Evangelist at KnowBe4 Africa. Anna, a very good morning to you. Thanks for joining us. Welcome.
Good morning, Simpiwe. Thanks for having me.
It's a pleasure, Anna. How did the collaboration between UWC, the government, and the private sector to tackle cybersecurity threats come about, and why?
So during lockdown, we had a sort of a roundtable discussion with a couple of industry players in the security industry or IT industry. And we spoke about how the government can do more to become digitized and securely digitized and protect the citizens. And you know, like typically people will complain about the government not doing enough. And then I actually said that, you know what, in other countries, they started hackathons to help their local governments to come up with innovative ideas on, you know, from anything from tracking, like the COVID tracking, etc. And we can't expect the government to come up with all of these things by themselves. So we just sort of said as an idea, you know, this was a couple of months ago, so during lockdown, why don't we get together as the industry and sponsor a form of a hackathon where we, similarly to, you know, the X Prize Foundation in the US, where they get together and sort of sponsor massive prizes to inspire the youth to come up with new innovations. We thought, well, why don't we do the same in South Africa and get together, find some sponsors and sort of look at the youth to really come up with some innovative ideas to then help the government to become more digitized and obviously protect the citizens and also, you know, tackle the challenge of online gender-based violence, which is something that hasn't been really even talked about in Africa enough. So we don't really have an instance at all on the continent that addresses that issue. So it's really excited that this idea, which was just a conversation or a discussion, after that, I got a call from two major companies, BCX and Trend Micro, and they said, hey, we're keen to get on board, let's do this. And this is how it started. And now we've got major sponsors, like I said, BCX are one of the major sponsors, Enclose are a major sponsor. We've got a couple of other you know, local security companies on board that want to help. And what is beautiful to see is that people, you know, they are excited about doing something. Obviously, it's voluntary to sort of mentor and assist the students to come up with new ideas. And from a government point of view, we're working with the Cyber Hub, which is sort of the central cybersecurity response center, and the Department of Communications. They're on board as sort of the recipients. And then we're also working quite closely with UWC. They've got something called the Innovation Hub, and that's sponsored by Samsung, and they are providing the students, and yeah, it's quite exciting. So we're kicking off on the 1st of February.
Okay. And take us through what one can expect with the GovX Innovation Challenge.
Yeah, so the kickoff will be in the beginning of February, but the site is already open. So it's GovX Innovation Challenge. And anyone who is interested can register. Obviously, you have to be a student or enrolled in some sort of tertiary institution, and you need to be over 18 of age. And what will happen is after the kickoff, we will have a 2 weeks period of webinars where every day we will have a security expert or an expert from the industry talking the learners or the students through the different themes and challenges and areas of security that we need to address. which is also a great opportunity because now you're getting, access to real industry leaders and experts, and all of that will be recorded, so it's also available on demand. And after that, the teams or the participants have the opportunity to submit their draft ideas or proposals, which will then be reviewed amongst the judges, and then by the end of February, we will sort of identify the top 10 teams, and those teams then go into a period of mentoring or guidance, where every week they will have a mentor, again an industry expert, who will guide them in building or in coming up or in designing the actual concept or the innovation. And then at the end of the challenge, which is in May, we will then do the prize giving, and it's quite cool. Like the first prize will be 100,000 Rand, so that the team that comes up with the best idea will get 100,000 Rand. The second runner-up 30,000, and then the third team will get 10,000 Rand. And what's also quite nice is that there are opportunities to gain internships in the sponsor organizations, also to get access to mentorships, and sort of, just what excites me the most is sort of that getting the students or the youngsters together with the industry experts and forging relationships that hopefully last beyond the challenge. Okay. And it's also, simply was not so much about necessarily coming up with the best solution, because that's also a bit, we can't expect the youngsters to solve a problem within 2 months, but it is about inspiring them and really becoming interested in joining the cybersecurity industry and at the end of the day, collaborating with government to solve this problem together.
Yeah, and it leads to my next question. How do we begin to equip South Africans with the necessary skills they need in order to protect themselves from cybersecurity?
Exactly. So there is a lot of awareness that needs to be done amongst at grassroots levels, really. I think I mentioned this before, is that cybersecurity nowadays is no longer a technical skill. It's really a life skill, because we all, again, from next week, online schooling is starting again. With the lockdown, everybody's lives were forcibly changed into digitization and doing things online. So we have to absolutely be better equipped to protect ourselves from the threats out there. And it really starts with some basic sort of awareness tips that if everybody knew those, you would already be quite a step ahead from the rest of the world, I guess, in defending ourselves. And I'm happy to share those quickly. So I suppose the first thing is to be aware that cybercriminals do take advantage of situations just like now, where we have newsworthy stories like the vaccinations, for example, coming out. So as soon as there's anything that's newsworthy, they will jump on it and try to sort of hijack it to trick us into clicking on something that we wouldn't usually, or to forward things that are fake. And so it's just something to be aware of, that whatever we see online, whatever we receive on WhatsApp or on email, to not trust, even if it comes from people, like the first sort of reaction should be, okay, I don't trust that until I have it 100% verified. And I guess this is really the number one tip that I share with everyone, is to become very cautious and mistrusting, unfortunately, in a way. And I suppose the second thing is to understand that basic things like keeping your software updated and patched, it's nothing like new or exciting, but those are basic things we can do to protect our devices. And then thirdly, and I know everybody hates them, but passwords are really important, and to enable something on all your critical accounts like email, social media, that's called two-factor or two-step authentication. And that is really something that you add to your password that you own. Like, for example, you have I've got on my phone, I've got a Google Authenticator app, and every time I log in, I use my password as well as that one-time code that this app generates on my phone. So if somebody were to steal my password, they have to actually steal my phone as well in order to get in. So those are the three things that everybody should know, and that would help everyone to be a little bit safer out there. But then obviously there's a lot more to it. And I guess the message really here is to take the responsibility and read up more about it and try and educate ourselves to sort of also help our kids and the children to be more responsible online. And yeah, look at it as a life skill rather than a technical skill.
Yeah. You know, Anna, we've been speaking of online gender-based violence. I know there's a certain fraction of the population out there who might be confused as to what online gender-based violence is and what it entails and what the modus operandi is for the perpetrators of online gender-based violence. So how does this initiative aim to prevent and curb this online GBV and provide the necessary assistance to the victims?
Yeah, so what is quite sad is that specifically African women, women of color, are 80% more likely to be harassed or discriminated in the online space. And that's just something we cannot allow. Like, we want Africa, and especially the women and the girls, to be part of the digitization and take part of, or take part in becoming successful online. And if we have, I think the stats say that 39% of all African women are scared because they've seen harassment online, either through their friends or even experienced themselves. So they sort of don't want to go online or be involved in the cyberspace because of this. So it's definitely something that a lot of people aren't even aware of, that it exists. But once you dig into it, it's quite shocking. So it's basically taking, in a way, like sort of harassment and discrimination. Often it's also racist slurs and anything that's directed against a group or a gender group. It's not just women, it could also be homosexual. So any group that's being attacked in the online space through trolls, through derogatory comments, that is considered online gender-based violence. And unfortunately, because a lot of people think they're anonymous, they wouldn't say this in the real world, but they feel that they can do this in the online space or on social media. Some of this is really quite ugly and damaging to the confidence of the victim. So it's definitely something we have to do more about. And also, like, the hope is to possibly even collaborate with the centers that help victims of gender-based violence in the real world, and then use technology to sort of, and I suppose improve or increase the efficacy or efficiency of those response centers. Okay. So that's the hope, really. Yeah.
All right. Anna Collard, great chatting to you. Thank you so much for opening our eyes to the different facets of online gender-based violence and what it actually entails. We appreciate the time.
Thank you so much for having me.
Sure. That was Anna Collard talking to us about the public and the private sector collaboration, which is set to tackle challenges of cybersecurity and online gender-based violence.